Hello everyone, it's FreeAZ. I know I haven't released any One Piece videos in a while, so I'm using this video to announce and explain a new wave of One Piece videos and music I will be releasing over the coming months. This video will also go over some changes or updates to theories I went over in the older videos, either because I was proven wrong about certain things, or changes due to new information or insights we have had in the story over the last year. A lot of this is information I wanted to get out there and talk about, but I couldn't justify a whole video for a topic I would talk about for a couple minutes each, so I will use this video to go over all of it arc by arc. I'm going to begin this video with the theories, and end it with the announcement of the new wave of videos and music, so that people rewatching for the theory content don't need to skip through news they've already heard before. To start off, I'd like to talk about my Egghead and Fullalead video, mainly about Bonnie and Smoker. Now when it comes to Bonnie, I got a couple things wrong, namely her being a clone, and her devil fruit number being 29 like her father and Nika. The clone thing I mainly believed because of her connection to Vegapunk, and because I thought clone would count as a non-human race for the 8-2 rule when it came to the full crew. However, through her backstory we have found out that she is half celestial dragon, which if the celestial part of their name and space helmets indicate anything, they may actually be aliens. Now to clarify, I don't necessarily think all the celestial dragons are aliens, but it seems the Gorosei and Emu truly do look down on humans as something beneath them, possibly indicating they truly aren't humans. Even if they do end up as humans, Oda has done enough to differentiate the celestial dragons from everyone else that they may just count as the non-human race Bonnie is part of. I also have a suspicion she may be there to represent the Buccaneers. Even though she is not one herself, she was raised by one, and is the legacy of their ideals with her idolizing Nika. As for her devil fruit number, Oda seemed to be hiding her devil fruit and her father fit the pattern. Not really sure why he hid the name for so long just to randomly drop it in an SBS, but I don't think that matters. She has a much deeper connection to Nika than I even thought, and I think it's pretty clear that she is the next crewmate by this point. I also said that we wouldn't get Kuma and Bonnie's backstory until Bonnie rejoins the crew, just like Oda did with Nami and Robin, but obviously that isn't true at this point. I thought Oda would continue the pattern of the female crewmate having their backstory when they rejoin the crew, and there's still a chance he will, but the basis for Bonnie's backstory is already there. During the time skip, Bonnie was captured by the world government, but ended up escaping. We know next to nothing about what happened to her in this period. If she does end up leaving and rejoining the crew, we might get a Bonnie-focused flashback about what happened to her, as her current backstory was actually Kuma's flashback, not hers specifically. Bonnie is also a lot like Luffy, and Luffy and Bonnie's relationship is likely going to mirror the relationship between Shanks and Luffy, and Roger and Shanks. I say this because there is a chance that because she is like Luffy, she doesn't end up leaving the crew like Nami and Robin did. I am leaning towards Bonnie leaving the crew at some point. All it would really take is her getting disillusioned with Luffy because he doesn't live up to the idea of Nika in her head, but there is a chance Oda is inverting the moments with Nami and Robin, and that Bonnie won't leave the crew and won't have her own dedicated flashback. As for Smoker, I don't think he's going to show up in Egghead at this point. If he was there, I think he would have made himself known by now. Oda did specifically connect him to Vegapunk, and he didn't go with Tashigi to rescue Kobe. I figured that when he heard Luffy's name connected to a large-scale naval operation in Vegapunk, he would jump, but apparently not. What I do think this might connect to, however, is an important Smoker moment from Alabasta. During Alabasta, Smoker was furious at the world government for taking Luffy's credit for taking down Crocodile. I think it's likely that after Egghead, the world government is going to pin Vegapunk's assassination on Luffy. Whenever Smoker realizes that this is a cover-up, and that Luffy was trying to protect Vegapunk, this will likely be the moment where he truly defects from the Marines. Though we will first have to see what Vegapunk's Truth of the World broadcast is, because that may make a cover-up impossible. Not that the world government won't try to anyway. Vegapunk's message could be what makes Smoker realize the government's story is fake in the first place. Regardless, Smoker is very likely to show up by the time we get to Fullalead Island, as Kuzan still doesn't have a counterpart on the Straw Hats yet, and I doubt that it will be Bonnie. Now I'd like to go over something I realized I was wrong about while in the middle of making this video. I don't believe Fullalead is the next arc anymore. It will be the arc afterwards. The next island actually is Elbaf, and I'd like to explain why I thought Fullalead would be next, and why I came to the realization that Elbaf will be. To do that, I'll have to go over how the last major part of the story was structured, beginning from Punk Hazard, where Luffy initially plotted to take down Kaido, and ending at Wano, where Luffy finally took down Kaido and became a Yonko in his own right. From Punk Hazard, the first island in the New World, all the way to Wano, Oda has been inverting moments from the first half of the Grand Line, from Whiskey Peak to Marineford. For example, Punk Hazard mirrored several elements of Whiskey Peak, Little Garden, and Drum Island, the first 3 islands of Paradise, while Wano mirrored Amazon Lily, Impel Down, and Marineford, the last 3 islands of Paradise. I will go over this more in a future video, but for now I would suggest watching Totally Not Mark's video about this, which I will link below, as he shows how each island in the New World was an amalgamation of islands from Paradise. I do not believe in how he believed One Piece would end, but he definitely proves that those parallels/inversions do exist. Now that Wano, the inversion of Marineford, is over, we once again see ourselves back at an inversion of Saba Odi with Egghead. We are once again building up to Marineford, which this time will be the return to Wano, where Blackbeard gets his 3rd Devil Fruit and expands his crew like the original Marineford. I believe the current saga will first be an inversion of Saba Odi to Marineford, the last islands Luffy visited in Paradise, while the last 3 islands of the New World will be inversions of the first 3 islands of Paradise. The main reason I thought that Fullalead would be the next arc is that I initially believed that Wano Act 4 would be Impel Down, while Act 5 would be Marineford, and that left Fullalead as the Amazon Lily inversion, leaving Elbaf, Lodestar, and Laughtale as Little Garden, Whiskey Peak, and Reverse Mountain. However, looking back at Impel Down, I think it is much more likely now that Fullalead is the Impel Down inversion, with Impel Down being the only arc so far that Luffy and Blackbeard actually fought, even if it was for a short time. On top of that, Blackbeard likely has Garp imprisoned at Fullalead, like Ace was imprisoned at Impel Down. I initially believed that Acts 4 and 5 of Wano would each invert a different island, like Acts 1 through 3 did, but now I believe that both acts will be Marineford, with it likely being Act 4 mirroring Marineford, and Act 5 mirroring post-Marineford, which was its own arc. This would leave Elbaf as the mirror of Amazon Lily, with us returning later as a Little Garden mirror. This also adds another parallel to Amazon Lily, as right after Marineford, Luffy went back to Amazon Lily to recover, while after return to Wano, Luffy will return to Elbaf. I believe this first visit to Elbaf will be relatively short like Amazon Lily was, and all the important moments will happen when we return. One of the main reasons I say this is because Shanks is in Elbaf. If the moment Luffy took down Kaido and became a Yonko himself wasn't the great pirate moment for Shanks to want to meet him, despite being right outside Wano's borders, I don't think the Egghead incident is it either. I think that Luffy still needs to confront Blackbeard before Shanks will meet with him. I think that Luffy will try to meet Shanks, and will either find out the news about Garp and go to Fullalead right away, or will be turned away by Shanks until he rescues his grandfather. Then, during the return to Wano, Shanks will likely show up to de-escalate the situation like he did at Marineford, and if Luffy is unconscious like Marineford, he will tell the other Straw Hats to have Luffy meet him at Elbaf. Now on to the Return to Wano video. I said previously that because we saw Big Mom eat Mother Caramel and gain her Devil Fruit powers, we can intuit that Devil Fruit powers are tied to a part of the user's body. I said that it was likely the heart, stomach, or brain, but I have completely ruled out the heart and think it is most likely tied to the brain now. When Law's Devil Fruit swaps people's bodies, he does this by switching their hearts, yet we know that the Devil Fruit powers still remain in the old body, so we can rule out hearts completely. I think Vegapunk is going to prove it is the brain, because now the main body is dead, but I believe Punk Records and the other satellites will live on. Punk Records houses the majority of Vegapunk's brain, and will still likely be important going forward in the story. If Vegapunk's Devil Fruit does not pass on, we can say for sure that Devil Fruit powers are a part of the brain. I think what Oda is trying to do with Vegapunk is have his main body die, but to have him live on inside Punk Records. If Punk Records becomes Luffy's third ship like I speculated, this would allow Vegapunk to essentially join the crew without becoming an official crewmate, and I believe Oda is setting him up as an artificial Klabauterman. On top of that, having these powers stored in the brain would also give us a lot of insight into Blackbeard having multiple fruits, as there has been speculation since Jaya that Blackbeard is actually multiple people. Him having multiple brains would explain a lot, including him not sleeping if two brains sleep while one is active. Now on to Orochi. It seems like Orochi has been confirmed dead by Oda. He said in an SBS that you need to behead Orochi 8 times to kill him, and in the manga you can see his heads diminishing each time he is beheaded, until he has only one head left by the end. I previously said he survived Wano, but I no longer believe that, unless Oda was being particularly obtuse with this response and isn't telling us something. However, Orochi's Devil Fruit is still up for grabs, and I still think it's the most likely option for Blackbeard's third Devil Fruit. It still ties in with his connection to the number 8, his multiple personality thing, and if I'm right about the brain thing, this would also allow him to have at least 8 Devil Fruits, making him a gargantuan threat by the end of the series. One of the biggest reasons I thought Orochi had survived is because I think Oda is going to continue the pattern of Blackbeard killing people for their Devil Fruit. However, Thatch seemed to have not eaten the Devil Fruit before Blackbeard killed him. It's possible that Blackbeard ends up killing whoever is in possession of Orochi's fruit currently, like Kinemon or the Earlobes guy that followed Orochi, I forget his name. Either way, Blackbeard still needs to go to Wano in order to free Kaido and Big Mom and reform the Rocks Pirates. So whether it's Orochi's fruit or another fruit, I still think Wano is the most likely spot for Blackbeard to get his third fruit. Now I'd like to talk a bit about the Rocks Pirates reforming when we return to Wano. For a while I wasn't completely sure who would round up the lineup when Kaido, Big Mom, Weevil, and Stussy joined Blackbeard. I said it would most likely be Rouge or another Rocks Pirate, but I think the answer just recently revealed itself in the manga. Kuzan is Smoker's parallel in the Blackbeard Pirates, so Bonnie's counterpart will likely join Blackbeard at Wano, and I think it is most likely Caribou, who is also a supernova. Now many people have pointed out that Caribou seems to be Blackbeard's version of Bartholomew due to his fanboyish nature, and those parallels are definitely being made. But just like Caribou idolizes Blackbeard and Bardo idolizes Luffy, Bonnie idolizes Nika. Smoker will be the one fighting Kuzan on Fullalead, but now we know that Caribou is also headed to Fullalead, and is a much better matchup for Bonnie. On top of that, the information that Caribou will give to Blackbeard about the ancient weapon in Wano is likely what will lead Blackbeard to Wano in the first place, and I think Blackbeard will reward him by adding him to his main crew. Now on to the Elbaf to Laughtale video. I'd like to talk about Lodestar Island and its connection to the Road Poneglyphs. Many translators initially translated the Road Poneglyphs as Lode Poneglyphs, and that is no coincidence. For those who don't know, the phonetics for R and L in Japanese are the same. Oda is definitely aware of this and plays around with it often, like Raftel and Laughtale, Mother Flame and Mother Frame, Logetown and Roguetown, etc. The Road Poneglyphs and Lodestar Island are definitely connected, and more than just their names. They are connected through the theme of navigation. In real life, lodestones are naturally magnetic ore that were used to create the first compasses. They are a very important part of navigation history. Lodestar Island is going to be an arc focused on navigation, because that is where Nami will have to navigate the crew to Laughtale using the Road Poneglyphs. Just like Whole Cake was Sanji's arc, Wano was Zoro's arc, and Elbaf will be Usopp's arc, Lodestar will be Nami's arc. I believe Lodestar Island will be made up of 4 main islands, not only in reference to the 4 Road Poneglyphs, but in reference to the 4 cardinal directions. I said previously that Elbaf would be the island where the 4 emperors have a 4-way Davy-back fight for the 4th Road Poneglyph, but now I think that Lodestar is a much more likely location for this to happen, with it being tied to the number 4 so heavily, and having the 4 Yonkos meet at the end of the Grand Line. This would allow Elbaf to be an arc much more focused on Shanks himself, which I think is more fitting given the buildup of Luffy and Shanks meeting. I still think Luffy and Shanks will have a Davy-back fight on Elbaf, for both Usopp and the Straw Hat itself, but the fight for the 4th Road Poneglyph will be on Lodestar instead. Now on to the One Piece video. Now there's been some debate about Imu's gender, but I think I have a clear answer on just exactly what Imu is now. We know that Emu is immortal, and that it is more than likely that Law's Devil Fruit is involved. However, Law's Devil Fruit has another ability I believe was important in the creation of Emu, the ability to swap people's bodies. I believe Emu is somebody who was born a man, but used Law's Devil Fruit to switch bodies with Nefertari Lily, stealing her Earth incarnation powers, and then made themselves immortal. I think Emu is going to end up looking like an evil version of Vivi, similar to how Vivi looked during her introduction. This is the main reason Emu wants Vivi. Maybe the powers are passing down through the generations, and in order to keep their Earth powers, Emu must now swap bodies with Vivi. This is also why Doflamingo said that Law's Fruit was the key to the sacred treasure of Mary Joie. He wanted to use Law's Fruit to swap to Emu's body and steal the Earth incarnation powers. I would also like to put in as an aside that with the confirmation of most of the Gorosei as yokai, I think it is very likely that Emu's Devil Fruit is based off the Umi Bozu, as many people have speculated. The Umi Bozu is a yokai that takes the form of a giant humanoid shadow on the water. I say this because I believe it is very likely that the shadowy figure we see as Emu is actually what Emu looks like to other people when their powers are active. Now, speaking of Emu's powers, I initially said that Lelouch's destruction was caused by Emu's Earth powers, an evolution of Vivi's ability to summon rain. I do believe that there is some truth to this, and that Emu's Earth powers play a role. However, I've realized it's a bit more complicated than that. I said previously that I believe God Valley is a sky island, and that is the weapon that will destroy Mary Joie at the end of the series. This is what I believe destroyed Lelouch. The giant mass in the sky above Lelouch was God Valley, though its power is currently incomplete, leaving a giant hole in the sea, which will not happen when it destroys Mary Joie. Part of the reason I believe God Valley is a sky island is that another instance of an island suddenly disappearing in the series is Jaya and Skypiea, and now I believe it ties in even more closely with Jaya. Many people have noted that some of the zombies on Thriller Bark are former Rocks pirates, and have deduced that Thriller Bark is God Valley. Exactly like Jaya, God Valley was split into two. Half of it is in the sky, and the other half is in the sea as Thriller Bark, and the split peak of God Valley is there to hint towards this. This is why Emu ordered Moria's execution at the end of Part 1. Emu wanted the other half of God Valley, so they ordered Doflamingo to kill Moria. This, however, did not work, and Moria got away, and the last time we saw Thriller Bark was outside of Fullalead Island. This is why I said God Valley's power is incomplete. Only half of it is currently in the sky, which I believe is why there is a giant hole in the ocean where Lelouch once stood, while at the end of the series Mary Joie will be destroyed and replaced with the All Blue. I also believe that you need to be one of the planetary incarnations to activate the weapon, which is why I said there was some truth to the statement that Lelouch was destroyed by Emu's Earth powers. To tie into this, I'd like to explain what I believe the Mother Flame actually is. We know that Vegapunk was the one to create Momo's Devil Fruit, and we can infer from this that the world government asked Vegapunk to recreate Kaido's Devil Fruit in the past, but he told the government it was a failure. The government wanted Kaido's Devil Fruit because of its ability to make flame clouds. They wanted the ability to move God Valley anywhere as a weapon of mass destruction. The Mother Flame is a workaround to this. It creates flame clouds. When Dragon said that Vegapunk would not have made the weapon that destroyed Lelouch for the government, he was right. The Mother Flame is just what facilitates the movement of God Valley. And that concludes the theory portion of this video, and we can move on to the channel update. Over the next few months, I'm planning on releasing at least 4 One Piece videos, potentially more if I have to split certain videos up. First, I will be releasing the video about the deaths in One Piece, finishing off the initial series of videos I made about a year ago. This video will also include both a crewmate and arc I believed I missed in my initial predictions, El Meppo and New Marineford. After that, I will be remaking the initial 10 crewmates per sea video that started this series, split into at least 3 parts. The first video will go over the overall concept of the now 31-man crew, going over quotes by Oda, Luffy's connection to 29, the comparisons between Luffy's, Roger's, and Blackbeard's crew, as well as how we are going to get to 31 crewmates from where we are now, and the end of the series overall. The second video will go over the cosmic elements of my theory, like the Ancient Kingdom symbol, the planetary incarnations, and how part of the One Piece is fixing Luffy's fractured universe. The third video will go over a lot of the errata for my theory. Think the part of my first video where I go over Luffy's entire journey and where he met each crewmate, as well as going over the intricacies of the crew like the 8-2 rule and the trios, which I have now realized are actually quartets, like how the monster trio has recently grown to include Jinbei. Now I'd like to take a minute to explain exactly why I've been holding off on making the video about the deaths in One Piece for so long. A big part of it is waiting for specific events in Egghead to unfold, and when it comes to that I can only go by Oda's pace. A big part of my first video was about how for every island Luffy visited, he either gained or lost a Nakama, and that when Luffy revisits a location, it also counts for another Nakama. However, I have realized this list is incomplete, as there are some arcs where Luffy actually visits multiple islands throughout the arc, and these islands correspond to the unaccounted for deaths and allies Luffy gained during those arcs, like Pedro and Zeus at Tato Land. I will go over this in more detail in the deaths video, but I explain this now to show you my current dilemma. Luffy started this arc in the lower part of Egghead, the Fabrio phase. He then went above the island to the upper part, the Labo phase. This counts as 2 visits. Luffy stays up on the Labo phase until his fight with Kizaru, who kicks Luffy all the way down to the Fabrio phase again, and he flies back through the barrier to the Labo phase again. This counts as another 2 visits. Luffy then falls down to the Fabrio phase again for the confrontation with Saturn, which brings us to where we are currently in the story. This brings us to 5 visits right now, and 5 slots to fill. 3 of them are the deaths of Shaka, Pythagoras, and now Vegapunk, and the other 2 are what I think will end up being Punk Records as the Straw Hats' 3rd ship, and the Ancient Kingdom robot coming to help the Straw Hats escape. Luffy did also meet Bonnie here, but I believe she will leave the Straw Hats at some point in the future like Nami and Robin did, so her location will be displaced to where she rejoins. One of the biggest things I have been waiting for was the confirmations of 3 deaths in Egghead, which we seem to have gotten with Vegapunk right now. What I was waiting for when I initially made this video was to see if Luffy goes back up to the Laba phase to escape with the other Straw Hats, because that would be another visit I have to account for, and to see if the Iron Giant helps the Straw Hats escape. However, after the announcement of a 3-week break in the manga, I think I'm going to finish making the deaths video over the next few weeks. Luffy seems to be heading off the island without going up top again, and the Iron Giant is likely going to help them escape soon, so I don't think I need to wait any longer. Another big reason that the remake of the 10 crewmates per sea video was put back for so long was because I felt like I was missing key parts of this theory. But now that I've figured out the crewmate I was missing, El Meppo, the arc I was missing, New Marineford, and Elbaf being the next arc instead of Fullalead, I think I have all the key pieces now. I'm going to be working on the deaths video over the 3-week break, and will release it when it's done. I will start work on the remake after. However, the earliest I would release it is after Vegapunk's message to the world goes out, as Oda is hyping this up as a huge reveal, and if it is important to my theory, I want to incorporate it into the remake. To go along with this wave of videos, I will also likely be releasing a one-off theory video, like the Deltarune one last time. This will be a Cosmere video for those of you who are Brandon Sanderson fans, and for those who aren't, I would highly recommend reading his Cosmere series, as there are a lot of similarities with One Piece. Now I'd like to end this video with an update on what I have been working on with my music. In the video on my dream, I said my next project would be Remastered EP, which would be re-recordings of unmastered demo with more studio quality production. This project will still come out at some point, but I'm releasing a side EP first. I said in my dream video that I wanted to do a completely different genre each album, and this EP is made to show off my versatility. All of the songs on this EP are going to be completely different genres, and each of these songs are versions of songs I plan to release in the future on upcoming albums. This EP is called Unrelated Project, to go along with unmastered demo and remastered EP, and will feature a hip-hop song, a punk song, a folk song, a soul song, and an electronic song, which has already been released on my channel as Power to the People. These songs were all written to have more mainstream appeal than Unmastered Demo, which was made to be more lo-fi and experimental. I want to try to have some catchier songs with a wider appeal on my channel. Most of these songs are already written, they just need to be recorded. I'm hoping to get all of these out over the next 6 months or so as well. I will also likely be releasing a couple more songs on top of them as bonus tracks, as I was feeling inspired and wrote a couple extra songs while writing this EP. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. I know I haven't released anything in a while. I appreciate everybody's patience. Just know that I will be releasing content in the coming months and the wait is almost over. Peace, everybody.